Summary of The Thing Around Your Neck by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. The book The Thing Around Your Neck comes in the form of a collection of short stories. The first narrative is titled Cell 1, and the narrator of Cell 1 tells the events happened during her brother's time spent in jail. Nnamabia is a cute and good-looking teenager who steals and sells his mom's jewelry when he's 17. In 3 years, cult fights have broken out on the campus of Chika University, where the brothers' parents teach. The cults started out as fraternities, but they quickly turned into very dangerous groups. When 3 boys are shot on school, Nnamabia is caught. People who write the story visit him in jail, and he seems to enjoy making up stories about what he's going through. Mother says that Nnamabia is not guilty. While Nnamabia is in jail for a few weeks, his defenses start to weaken because he is being threatened with being moved to the dangerous Cell 1. In the end, a good old man joins his cell. Nnamabia sees the cops make fun of the old man for being sick and poor. Last but not least, Nnamabia sticks up for the old man on the day that the director calls for his release. He is moved to Cell 1 and then to another jail, where he is beaten. His parents and the narrator come to get him, but he doesn't make his story more dramatic when they do. Nkem looks at the Benin mask on her wall and hears her friend say that Obiora, her husband, has a girlfriend in Lagos, Nigeria in Imitation. Nkem lives in Philadelphia. Before Nkem came to America for the first time, Obiora stayed in Philadelphia for a while but quickly went back to Nigeria. Obiora only comes once a year now that Nkem has 2 kids. Nkem cuts her hair short when she gets home. When she thinks about how she met Obiora, she feels sad. After work, Nkem watches Imitation, her housekeeper, make dinner. Nkem talks about Obiora's girlfriend. Imitation tells Nkem that it's best not to know about things like that because all guys are like that. Next time Nkem calls Nigeria, the houseboy won't tell her if anyone is home. Next week, Obiora comes to see us. He asks Nkem to take a shower with him, and she says yes. She says she wants to move back to Lagos while she's in the shower. As seen in A Private Experience, Chika hides with a Hausa Muslim woman in an empty shop during a fight. The woman tells Chika that her oldest daughter also got lost in the fighting, and Chika is afraid that her sister Needy is missing. The woman asks Chika to look at her dried out, cracked nipples, which are burning from nursing her baby. Chika says she is a medical student. The woman and Chika spend the night in the store. When they leave in the morning, they each tell the other to visit their families. Chika is sure she will not be able to find Needy. In the movie Ghosts, Ikenna Okero and Professor James Nwoy meet on Nsukka grounds. He used to think that Ikenna had died when the Nigerian army attacked Nsukka in 1967. Ikenna says he went to Sweden and set up pro-Biafra protests all over Europe. When Ikenna asks about James's wife Ebra, James says that even though Ebra has been dead for 3 years, she still visits. James tells the reader that Ebra's ghost comes to see him often and rubs lotion into his skin. Ikenna says no when James asks her to come over to his house. After getting home, James waits for his daughter to call and for Ebra to come over that night. On Monday of last week, Kamara and her husband Togchi returned to Philadelphia after being apart for 5 years. When Kamara gets to America, she feels down and is very disappointed in Togchi because she has picked up a bothersome American accent. Kamara gets a job as a nanny for Josh, a mixed-race 7-year-old boy. Neil, Josh's dad, is always worried about the trans fats and high fructose corn syrup that his son eats. He also pushes Josh to do well in everything he does. Travis, Josh's African-American artist mother, asks Kamara to be a model when they meet. As Kamara starts to feel better, she starts to feel attracted to Tracy. It takes her a week to find out that Tracy often asks women to model for her and that Tracy's request wasn't based on sexual interest. In Jumping Monkey Hill, Ujunwa, a young Nigerian author, goes to the Jumping Monkey Hill Lodge to check out a writer's class. She doesn't like Edward, the British man who is in charge of planning the workshop, from the start. He looks at Ujunwa's body and says things that are sexy to her. Ujunwa writes a story about a bank worker who becomes a woman. For her job, it's to get new customers, which she quickly learns means getting them sexually. The writers at the class start to read and comment on each other's stories. Edward says that many of them don't show real Africa, like the Senegalese woman's true story about telling her parents she was gay. Edward doesn't believe Ujunwa's story when she reads it. Ujunwa says it's all true because it happened to her. In The Thing Around Your Neck, Akana wins the American visa lottery and goes to the United States to live with her uncle. She takes a bus to a small town in Connecticut and works in a restaurant while her uncle tries to sexually abuse her. A white boy comes to see Akana and tries to talk to him about Africa. Soon after, they start dating, but the boy is rude and rich. I don't get why Akana is mad that he doesn't tell waiters that she's not his girlfriend when they think she is. She finally writes home and finds out that her dad has died. She flies home by herself. The person who tells the story in the American embassy is in line to get a protection visa. The man behind her tries to talk to her, but all the narrator can think about is her dead son Ugana. The narrator's reporter husband released an article that made the head of state angry. He then got a call telling him that he was going to be arrested and killed. When the narrator tried to sneak her husband out of the country, 3 men came after him and shot Ugana. The woman in front of her and the man behind her are let into the embassy for their talks. The narrator thinks that she'd rather stay in Nigeria and decorate Ugana's grave with flowers than use his death to get a visa. She walks out of the office. The story of the shivering takes place in Princeton, New Jersey. Ukamaka restarts the web pages and looks for news about a plane crash in Nigeria in Nigerian news sites. She is afraid that Udena, her ex-boyfriend, was on the plane. Someone else from her building, Chinedu, knocks on her door and asks to pray with her for Nigeria. We find out that Udena wasn't on the trip. Chinedu and Ukamaka become friends over the next few weeks, and Ukamaka talks at length about her friendship with Udena. Along with shopping together, she takes him to his Pentecostal church every Sunday before going to her own Catholic church. One day, they get into a fight when Chinedu says he dated a dominant man and Ukamaka says that Chinedu's partner sounds a lot like Udena. That Sunday, Chinedu finally says it, he's not a student after all. He's just hiding from the government to avoid getting deported because his visa ended 3 years ago. Chinedu goes to mass with Ukamaka. As seen in The Arrangers of Marriage, Chinaza and Ofadile, her new husband, come to New York. Her aunt and uncle set up the marriage because they thought it would be good for her. Ofadile is a doctor. Chinaza is disappointed right away when she sees that Ofadile's house is just a room with few things in it. She is shown around New York by Ofadile, who corrects her every time she uses an Igbo or British English word instead of an American one. He tells her that his British name is Dave Bell in the United States. She applies for a social security card under the name Agatha Bell, and he gives Chinaza an American recipe to help her learn how to cook American food. In the end, Chinaza meets Nia, a young woman who lives in the apartment building. But Chinaza likes hearing Nia talk even though she thinks Nia looks like a prostitute. Ofadile tells her one night that he married an American woman to get his green card, but she won't let go of him. Nia tells Chinaza that she slept with Ofadile 2 years ago when Chinaza goes to her apartment. She tells Chinaza to stay with Ofadile until her papers are ready. The next night, Chinaza goes back to her husband. In Tomorrow is Too Far, the person who tells the story of tomorrow goes back to Nigeria after 18 years. She remembers that when she was a child, her grandmother in Nigeria would only praise the narrator's brother, Nonso, and not her or her cousin Dozie. The storyteller was a woman, and Dozie was the wrong grandson. He died one day when he fell off the avocado tree. The narrator told her mother that Nonso fell out of the tree because Grandmama played a joke on him 3 months after his death. The narrator then tells what really happened. She wanted her mother to love her more, so she thought something bad had to happen to Nonso. Nonso fell for her trick and climbed the tree. When he got to the top, she yelled that a deadly snake was nearby. He died right away. However, after Nonso died, the narrator's mother never showed her the love she had hoped for. In the present, the narrator asks Dozie what he wanted that summer. Dozie replies that all he cared about was what the narrator wanted. As shown in The Headstrong Historian, Nnamabia married Obiorika and has a son named Anakwenwa after several failed pregnancies. After two of Obiorika's cousins killed him, Nnamabia chooses to send Anakwenwa to a Catholic mission school to learn English and take the cousins of his father to court. Anakwenwa doesn't like school at first, but she soon becomes very religious. He gets a job as a teacher and refuses to eat his mother's food. However, he wins Nnambia's land case for her. He gets married to Mbik, a woman who cries a lot and doesn't fight back. They have 2 kids, and Nnamabia can tell that their second kid, Grace, has Obiorika's soul. Grace goes to Catholic school and learns about Western culture, but she is still interested in her grandmother's culture. She comes home from school to be with her dying grandmother. As Grace gets older, she starts to doubt her own schooling. She goes to college, writes books about Nigerian history, and gets a split from her husband because he doesn't think her interest in Nigeria's native people is important. Later in life, Grace changes her name to Ifemefuna, which is what Nnamabia called her.
About the author. Adichie was born in Nsukka, Nigeria, the 5th of 6 children. She grew up there. Her father taught at the University of Nigeria, and her mother was the first woman to be in charge of registration at the institution. Adichie went to college to study medicine and then moved to the United States when she was 19. She got master's degrees from both Johns Hopkins and Yale, and her work quickly won her a lot of praise and awards. In 2008, she got the Genius Grant from the MacArthur Fellowship. She has written songs, short stories, a play, and 3 novels: Purple Hibiscus, 2003, Half of a Yellow Sun, 2007, and Americana, 2013. The Orange Prize is one of the many awards she has won for her writing. Adichie lives in both Nigeria and the United States.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.